Oh, hey everyone. This is Dean for Paranormal Pickers. Just getting ready for our next Paranormal Picker adventure. Come on,
Good
join me.
evening, everyone out there in Ghosthead Soup Land and Paranormal World Land, I guess. This is Dean. Paranormal Pickers presents Season 2, Episode 21, The World. We're finally coming to the completion of Season 2. And there's the World card right there, number 21. Goes with all the other cards. Pretty much completion, the World. And I want to take this moment to, as we wind down the season, we made it. Pretty much, we made it. And I want to shout out and give some thank yous to everyone, pretty much, for joining in and participating. And I want to give out a thank you to Nick Hansen, of course, my partner in crime, Vince Wilson, some of our guests for season 2. Vince Wilson, Victoria Monday, of course, Kathy Cressall from Haunted Rockford. We have Sarah Belker. Always fun to have her on there. Sylvia Schultz, great storyteller. Get out there and get all her books, calendars, whatever she offers. You're not going to be disappointed. The great Laura Redmond from Ghost Head Soup, always there to banter back and forth with me, call me names. We have the due diligence of Dale Kazmarek in the paranormal field coming on, and his knowledge base of different areas of the world is just astonishing. So check out what he does. We also had Jeff Mudgett on from H.H. Holmes and Bloodstains, and he's got the redo of the book that he wrote coming out shortly, so watch for that. We have Mike Arians from the Roadhouse. Appreciate him. Go out there and check out the tours that he does at his Roadhouse there in Oregon, Illinois. Gary Hill, just down the street, Butler Grove, author, musician, talent. Boy, that was a fun night. So check out what Gary Hill has to offer. Sarah Jane came on board. Sale Ravencraft, Robin Wilt. Always check out these folks. It was just so great meeting these new people online and sharing experiences and going through what they experience as well. We got Greg Kaz from Shadow Hunters, also Shadow Hour, and I believe his show is going to start up again January 6th, so watch for that. Ghost Head Soup, of course. The members, Jeremy and Amber, joined me last week. That was cool. And Mark, Steve Literal down there in Tennessee. He was actually just up here and enjoying the nice cold temperatures. But his knowledge base of the Bell Witch has been, that was the awesome show, too. I do want to give a shout out to Nick Kuselis, who joined us for a little bit. We had technical difficulties, but we're going to definitely do pretty much with the stuff that him and I want to talk about. We'll probably do like a 3 series skit with him. So watch for that in the new year. Prayers and our memories, of course, to Linda Godfrey and her family who passed this year. We did a memorial with Dale and Greg. That was really nice. And so, again, just prayers and blessings to her family. And then tonight we have Bob Davies coming on board. So I'll bring him on shortly. We just did a hunt out there in Indiana last night, or yesterday. Yeah, last night. But again, back to the world card. It means the end of a way of life, success, new beginnings. So, of course, with the new year coming in, we want to do new beginnings. What season 3 might have in store, like I said, hinted a little bit with Nick, is potentially we could do like a 3-parter with the same subject, maybe different guests at the time. So we're getting that worked on. So we'll take a couple weeks off to get stuff formatted, and we'll get back to you sometime in January. Change of location, the world card. Hope for the future is another term for that. Triumph in the end, admiration, and possibilities. So, without further ado, let me bring on our special guest tonight, Bob Davies, everyone.
Thank you, Dean. I don't know how special I am, but it's good to get to spend more time with you after yesterday.
Yep, we drove what, an hour and a half each way to Fowler, Indiana, to do our little Fowler theater investigation,
Yeah.
and I was Uber Dean. I guess I should have put my name up there, Uber Dean.
Yeah. And then, what a night.
Yeah, to say the least. So yeah, it was. Well, at least it was 60 degrees. It was really nice out yesterday. So
Yeah.
that made a whole big of a difference. So I'm turning on my Facebook right now so I could get the comments here. We got Ron, love it on. Hey Ron, Kathy Para, she was there last night as well. Hello, and Kathy saying hello as well. So there you go. That's
You were just mentioning tarot cards. One of the members of my group, a few years back, we went to the Orpheum Theater here in Champaign, and she and another investigator were up in the projection booth, and she was talking about her tarot card collection and the
oh.
different decks she has. And at one point, you hear her saying how she had just spent $125 on a deck. And right after she says that, I got an EBP. It says, "Oh shit."
That's a lot of money for a deck of cards.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And apparently the spirit did too. I was I had played that one back a couple times, making sure I heard it right. But yeah.
Well, that's incredible. So, do you do tarot? Have you had a tarot card reading before, Bob?
Never.
Never. Do you believe in tarot
Ever
cards?
no.
Do you believe in that tarot cards, spiritualists, pendulum readings? Do you believe in getting answers that way from the other world?
Absolutely not.
Okay, there you go. So you mentioned your team. Tell everyone who your team is. Do you still have
Well,
a team?
not much anymore. Most of us have relocated, but still have a presence on the web. Still go out and people contact me, and I still try to help them. It's CU Paranormal Society. It was originally founded by myself and two dear friends from high school, and we got it up running, doing quite a bit for quite a while. I ended up suffering a stroke, which slowed things down a little bit. But after a few months of rehab, I was out investigating again. And as you know, from the times we've investigated together, a little thing like a stroke hasn't stopped me.
Nope. You're the hardest working guy in paranormal right there.
I doubt
Determined.
that.
Well, determined anyway. And
Yeah.
I met you after your stroke, and the
Yep.
first time I met you was with Dale and Melissa down at the Monroe House in Hartford City, Indiana, and then we ended up. So yeah, you would like to do birthday hunts, or at least when you're in town, you would like to do hunts. So the Monroe House, the Blair House in Blair, Ohio, and then the Atchison or the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas,
Yeah.
or as Dale likes to say, Atchison. But
He could not pronounce that word to save his life.
right,
I don't know why it was so hard.
he was putting a T
Atchison
in
and just, yeah,
it.
like, what's so hard about this?
He had problems with that one. So yeah,
That surprised me.
so yeah, Monroe House. Belair
Yep.
House, Sally House, and now the Fowler Theater of all things. So yeah, we were supposed to go to the Tinker Swiss, but they were not available during the time that you were here. So,
Right.
um, so yesterday I took off towards Fowler and got a call from you saying, "Dean, can you come down with your
Mm-hmm.
steed and pick me up?" So I'm like, "Yep, no problem." Got the address, picked you up, drove to Fowler, hit a
And
deer
you got a
carcass.
free dinner out of it. You got a tank of gas out of it, and we got to run over a deer carcass. It was a great trip up.
Yep. I didn't hit the deer, but I ran over it and heard
Yeah.
the heard the clinking and clattering of rib bones on my bottom of my car. But it did rain later, so I'm hoping that all that blood and stuff got washed off.
Oh, I'll bet it did.
Yeah, it
No
was a pretty good
witnesses
day.
anyway.
But again, it was 60 degrees, so it was nice to have that a change of pace. So you did bring a little bit of your weather back from Arizona with you, so I appreciate
Oh, no problem.
that. So yeah, what was which you were talking to me yesterday in the car about the places that you would train your teammates. What was
Oh,
the
yeah.
one? What was the one building that you focused on the most?
Oh, the Cheney Mansion down in Jerseyville, far and away. Yeah, it's easily accessible. It's only a couple hour car drive down there. Been down there a few times, so I knew what to expect and how to kind of set up. And I did I didn't want to throw people new to the paranormal into the deep end like I did to myself on my first hunt. So take them to Jerseyville. There's no dark or malicious things there. It's an active location, but it's all good activity. Gotten great evidence out of there over the years, and it's someplace that's very close to my heart. And if I ever get a chance to go down there again, I probably would. I know when you told me last night that you had never investigated there, that just threw me for a loop. Is figuring, everybody in Illinois is a ghost hunter. I thought I'd gone to Cheney.
Nope, I stick around here pretty much, but no, I've been to Florida, Colorado. I've been to other parts of the world. So, this local stuff I could do pretty much anytime. I guess that's why I haven't been down there. Who knows? Who knows why I haven't been where I've been? But yeah, so you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm coming up this time. Tinker Swiss wasn't available. I found Fowler Theater," and you're like, "Yeah, let's go." And it worked out perfectly. Um, so, in doing my research around Fowler, I did come up with some interesting stories. Obviously, Fowler seems to be a little town that kind of emulates a lot of different things based off of the conversation I had with Dwight last night, the host of the Fowler Theater. I asked him to be on tonight as well, but it's movie night, so they're running movies on Fridays night. So he says, "Nah, I gotta work." So uh, that would have been nice to have him on here as well. So the biggest story out there, of course, is the story of 15-year-old Ada Atkinson. On September 24th in 1883, and the newspapers refer to her as this beautiful girl of 15, was found murdered in her home of her father's house on their family farm. And she was the daughter of Cephas Atkinson, and this guy had wealth. I mean, they named a town after him out there. They lived near Oxford, which that town I'm going to bring up again, in Benton County, about 20 miles west of Lafayette, Indiana. I do have a picture of her that my Haunted Fowler website offers up. So when I bring that up, I can present it here. So yeah, this girl was knifed to death. Her throat was cut and received multiple stab wounds from a 50-year-old man. Turns out there's Ada. Does she look beautiful in 15? I mean, she doesn't even look 15. Do you think this is her? She looks older than 15 here.
Yeah, it looks older than 15, and you know we're looking at over 100 years ago, so you never know what it could or couldn't be.
Yeah. And no one smiled in those pictures back then, right?
Oh,
Or
that
that's
is
what
true.
Dwight.
I
That is what Dwight referenced to as well. So let me bring up another picture here. Hopefully I didn't. Okay, here you are. So another picture from the Facebook page, kind of showing you where Oxford is. So um, Fowler would be up here somewhere, up here, and that's where their home was. To give you perspective, is that Fowler is where the Benton County Jail is, and the murderer turned out to be Jacob Nealing, who was arrested on October 13th of 1883. They found a bundle of his clothing concealed in like a work shed area, with blood and everything on it, and he was employed by the family to take care of some stuff around the farm, I guess. So when he was caught, he actually, oh, he actually blamed Jacob Ladd, another Jacob. So two Jacobs were blamed, and they were both arrested. But it turned out that Jacob Ladd was an innocent kid who the older gentleman was trying to use as a scapegoat. So you can find a lot of this out on My Haunted Fowler. Go online; they have YouTube clips of them as well. But that night, November 18th, so about a month after he confessed, a little over a month, about 60 masked men or people of the surrounding counties staged their assault on this jail, and they pretty much broke into the heavy set doors of that jail up in Fowler and cut the cell block doors with chisels and hammers, and they pretty much pulled this guy from the jail cell. Now, they brought him to the house down in Oxford, and they lynched him. And this Jacob guy, he confessed, of course, and he was quoted to say, "Goodie, bye, boys. I'm gone now." Uh, at about 1:45 in the morning, he was hung from the walnut tree, and there's pictures on the Facebook page where the hanging tree potentially could be, and people were taking pieces from the bark as a souvenir for it. Um, and as they were adjusting the noose on his neck, he said, "Be sure and get the rope under my whiskers so it won't hurt." So these are some of the quotes that he said. Um, So the corpse was lowered. He was hanging there for about 9 hours at the farm, and an estimated 3,000 people came to see it. School was dismissed so students can join in. The body was taken to Oxford Town Hall for further display. Nellie's coat was a piece of paper with the words, "A warning to murderers." And again,
yeah,
like I
back in
said,
those days. I'm sorry, Dean. Go ahead.
no, back in those days.
Um, like at Moundsville, when they had executions, the hangings were a holiday for people. They'd bring out picnic baskets,
Hmm.
and they'd make a family vacation day all around somebody getting hanged. So just societal norms shows how much they've changed over the years.
Yeah, we should bring that back, huh? The good old days, Bob.
Well, I do not want to offend anybody with my views on this subject, so I will respectfully decline to answer.
Ron said that when they were out there investigating the jail, that they were able to speak to a Jacob at the time. or a few times anyway.
Well, when the Dwight was talking about the jail, I mean, he was whetting my appetite to want to hobble down there and get in there for a little bit.
Right? Yeah. Well, we didn't. Maybe next time. It's only an hour and a half
Oh,
away from us now,
from
but
Champagne, yeah.
yeah,
Just add 24 hours to that when I get back to Arizona.
exactly. So the tree itself was cut up for souvenirs, and also the death rope as well. And Jacob Nelline was buried in an unmarked grave in West Cemetery, and the farmhouse itself was tore down in 1974. So a little bit about that early history. So that's a potential spirit that could be in that area. Jacob, Ada, not so much because she's down in Oxford. And I bring up Oxford again because the city's not that far from each other. And when I was talking to the White last night, I mentioned a person that I found of interest that was born in Oxford, and he actually just posted it on his my haunted Fowler Facebook page today. The information that I gave him. So, and I told you this last night on the drive. Winnie Ruth Judd, also known as the Trunk Murderess. And I was telling Dwight about this, and he said he had a picture. Someone took a picture of a lady holding two suitcases on the stairs. So he kind of course, was interested in the story. So I'm like, well, look it up, the Trunk Murderess. So Winnie Ruth Judd was born in Oxford, Indiana in 1905. So after this Jacob Kneeling thing, or Ada murder. She was a medical secretary. She was accused of murdering her friends, Agnes Ann Leroy and Hedvig Samuelson, in October of 1931. They discovered the bodies, one of them being dismembered, in trunks, like steamer trunks, like you said to me earlier in the car. And they witnessed something in the trunks, and they called her out and says, open the trunks, and she basically took off. So she was going from Phoenix, where you're at now, which is ironic, or going to be, to Los Angeles. So when she took off, she was obviously captured and arrested for the murders. And it was said that she was trying to win over the affections of Jack Harrelson, which is a prominent Phoenix businessman. So money was involved. Later on, I know. So anyway, this trunk murderess, or Winnie Ruth Judd, she was found guilty, and she was sentenced to death. But then she later was found mentally incompetent. So they put her in an asylum, Arizona State Asylum, which was now later renamed Arizona State Hospital. So over the next 3 decades, she tried to escape the asylum 6 times. After her final escape during the 1960s, she did remain at large for 6 years under assumed name, and she was actually working for a wealthy family. She was ultimately paroled in 1971 and discharged from parole in 1983. She died on my birthday, October 23rd, different year though, in 1998. She lived to be 93 years old. And this woman, like I said, she was born in Oxford, Indiana, which is right next to Fowler here. So I don't know what maybe there's something in the water that they're drinking. But, so yeah, this lady, I guess, had an article or a book written about her, and the person that did the interview pretty much thought that she was set up, and that money did the murder and put it onto her, and she was the fall guy for it. But she lived to be 93. I mean, she had a death sentence on her. It's pretty weird how things work out, for certain people, I guess. So
Yep,
again,
that it is.
so I brought this up to Dwight, and he put it on his Facebook page. So get out there and look at his Facebook page. He also informed me that other things happen throughout the years in that area, and how certain truths are not revealed all the time in the stories. So I'm glad that we had that conversation because he's thinking the same way I am with historical stuff, and not it, it's hard to believe that everyone can all be honest and tell the truth 100% of the time. You're gonna get and most of it has to do with greed. So if somebody's not telling something, it's because they're getting monetary gain from it. So that was something that we were talking about as well. um, he is with the team 765 Paranormal, so you can look up that as well if you haven't been to the Fowler Theater, or that area for that matter. Those are some things that you can look up. They do a nice documentary on the Fowler Theater online, so check that out. Now, back to Fowler, in addition to that, there is what I was talking about. They call it the murder house. And this is more recent. This is something that took place in 2004, I want to say, where Teresa Denica or Jardine, um, a woman from Chicago, bought a house in Fowler after supposedly killing her boyfriend and then dating someone on Match.com and then calling it off. I'm making this long story short because you can figure it out. But she ended up, her mom moved in with her, and she was embezzling money from her dad. And I think her dad was on the house lease, so I think he actually bought it, and he probably didn't even know because it shows him living there. But anyway, uh, um, she ended up killing her mom and putting her in a barrel in the garage there. And then she took some pills, and she later died herself after breaking it off with this Match.com guy. And then that's when they started finding out that this other guy was killed, and big story out of it. And it's just down the street. It's on the same road as the theater. And I was talking to Dwight about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the murder house." So they all call it the murder house. So something to potentially for the future, hopefully. Um, but yeah, it seems, talking to Dwight after initial investigation down in the theater, there's a lot of secrets going on in that little town there. So there's probably a lot more that we don't know about. So what brings us up to last night, we have, of course, Bob Davies, Kathy Para, Marge, the birthday girl, Suka. Am I pronouncing that right? Suka? Michael Wright, and myself.
And last night was really interesting. A lot of odd things, all just odd little occurrences are happening quite a bit. And for anybody out there, if they use IR cameras, um, I'd like to get a little feedback if I can. Whenever I'm using IR, and last night a lot of was happening, the little balls of light anomalies would just appear in the middle of my screen, and then they shoot up or down, left or right. And I mean, they were just appearing in the middle of, in thin air. And at one point, when Kathy was going back to the backstage, just as she had started to go back, a really huge one appeared, like somebody almost was in front of the camera, and then it moved off quickly as well. And I don't know if anybody else has ever had these kind of light anomalies, but I don't know what they are. And I'm not a believer in orbs. I believe most orbs are dust balls or insects. But when they're only showing up on IR and you don't see them with your naked eye, that kind of leaves me wondering what else it could be. I'm not sure if anybody else has had that experience, but if
Like,
they have, I'd love to get some feedback.
I did find online that that is something that they do capture there at the theater. Witness balls of light appearing in various parts of the giant space. And they have their video cameras, security cameras, with these just flashes of light anomalies that would go off. So I believe that's what you were seeing as well. So you may have captured what they're already witnessing.
What according to White, those are actual flashes of light.
Okay.
What I was getting on my camera were really, except for that one massive one I saw, they were, you know, little tiny ones, just in the middle of air. There was no light you could see with your naked eye. Nothing was flashing, and then the little ball would shoot up, down, left, right. The one I saw when Kathy was going to the back, the trajectory of it was aiming right at Kathy.
Hmm.
And on all these, there were never any flashes of light in the theater. The theater stayed dark the whole time.
So Ron's got some things here. So he said, "Did Dwight tell you about the train accident in town many years ago?" Yes, he did.
Yes.
There was 1907. There was a train collision, and I believe it was like 25 people were burned. Um, and someone came up with the word "burned" for Kathy, and when we lit a candle for Marge's cupcake, birthday cupcake, uh, she actually did get burned on the candle. So Kathy did. She touched the flame. She touched the flame and got burned. So I'm like, well, it did say burn, so it kind of warned you in a sense. Uh, and then he also says the murder house is the White House down the street. Yep, it's right on the corner of. I mean, you can pull up realtor.com and see it and see the inside. It's really a nice house. And doing some of the research, I did find that it was potentially a dental office back in the early 1900s, or because the house was built 1915, so it could have been a doctor's office at the time or a dentist's office at the time. Because I did find a ad in the newspaper where a woman was selling dentist supplies out of that address. So it just makes sense that her husband was probably a dentist. Um, and then the other thing he says is, did you see the video of the door to the projection room open by itself? I have not seen that one. Again, I didn't see all the footage and Fowler because I was driving pretty much all yesterday.
It, don't laugh so hard you choke to death.
I got home at 5 o'clock in the morning, man. But it was a nice
Hey,
drive. I got a free car
I'm
wash.
glad it was a nice drive. Yeah, we had some pretty decent rain for end of December.
Yeah, so it was 60 degrees and lightning. It was nice. So back to the theater a little bit is it was built in 1940. I actually got some pictures here offline, so I don't claim these to be mine. They're off the line. Uh, Built in 1940 by Dick Vlastos, aka Demol Demosians, however you pronounce his first name. He owned a Dreamland Theater, which was just down the street. He bought this one, and then this one, the Fowler, became his sole theater. And I guess this his theater was only one of six to play the Gone with the Wind back in the day. So that was something that Dick himself was very proud of. That his theater was only one of six that played Gone with the Wind when it first came out. Uh, He was also proud that his daughter was married on the stage there at this theater. Over time, it got in disrepair. By the time 1990s came, and about a decade later, this preservation unit pretty much took it over and started fixing it up. Excuse me, and it looks pretty damn good. To be honest with you, it looks
Oh
really
yeah.
nice in there. They did a great job. But during this time, they started seeing spirits, and when it opened in 2010, things didn't stop there. So some of the claims were noises, obviously noises, shadow figures, another one, a phantom cat, which actually, when I was talking to Dwight, I saw a cat walk outside the front door there. Don't know what that was. It's perfect timing, I guess. Um, and then when they opened in 2010, the activity continued. And 2016 is when they called in the 765 paranormal team to investigate. And they've had activity ever since. One of the main ones is a gray hair man wearing a tan raincoat and a fedora. And other people are seeing this same figure as well. A little girl would peek her head around the counter of the concession stand. And Dwight was telling me a story about how they have these walkie talkies. I don't know if he mentioned this to you or not, Bob, but they had these walkie talkies, and his wife had one, he had one, and there was one in the back of the concession stand where a gentleman by the name of Bob, I guess, was at where also. And there was a little girl there, but the little girl wasn't using the micro or the walkie talkie. And on his wife's walkie talkie, she heard her name being called, Michelle, on the walkie talkie. And would finish sentence like, Michelle, I know you're there, or something like that. But no one else was using the walkie talkie, and he said it sounded like a young girl. So could the little girl peeking around the counter be also manipulating the walkie talkies? And I did tell him that at a house here in Belvedere, I got a walkie-talkie video or audio of a little girl saying, "You want to play? I can't hear you, huh?" And this is like, what the hell? This is like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. These kids should be in bed. I'm thinking, but so that kind of freaked me out. So it's possible. Is it paranormal? Don't know how he got it. Could have been a nearby walkie-talkie as well. It remains to be seen. But no one else was touching the walkie-talkies from his point of view. Hair is being tugged at these locations. The witness balls of light, like we said earlier. And then behind the stage, people are being touched. And what did Kathy ended up? She said she was touched back there on the shoulder.
Yeah, when she had gone back there, this was after I'd seen that big light anomaly. I had said, and I wasn't talking loudly, but I was saying, Kathy's in the back. Could you go touch her on the shoulder?
Oh, so you
And
actually
then,
invited it.
yeah, and she did not hear me say that. So when she's talking about something touched me, and when she came back out, she said something touched me on the shoulder. It's like, well, I said, if would you do that? So the fact that she didn't hear me say it and then it happened, that was one of the interesting things that happened last night.
Yeah, and I believe her too. She's not one to make stuff up, but I know later on, she wasn't getting too much responsive of the other equipment, and she's like, "Well, at least I was touched," So she got that to take home with her.
Oh
Who's
yeah,
doing the
sometimes
touching?
the evidence. Sometimes you don't get a lot of evidence, but the personal experience is more than make up for it. You can't
Exactly.
share them with anybody. Now, I can't show you my experience, but the fact that you have it sometimes helps to validate what's been going on in a place.
Exactly. Yep. Um, Dwight also says that they see a cleaning woman sweeping up the alley there. A little boy is also seen in the back, and he has a rocking chair in the back. It's not the one originally from the theater, but there is one back there that he uses just to see if somebody moves it. Um, the other thing too is suicide. There was a suicide in 1968. One of the owners or workers there committed suicide, and um, I seen it. And Dwight actually mentioned it too. Is that Benton County in that area per capita had the highest suicide rate. So I don't know. Is there something in the water out there? He mentioned ley lines. He actually mentioned Mounds Park. So potentially this town could be uh, effigy mounds at one point, which was tore into and built. I mean, Mr. Fowler was a cattle raiser, and he had property all over the place. So who knows when they were building the city what took place there? So of course, you
I
hear
got a
about the.
probably a much simpler explanation. They're in Indiana. What more do you need?
That kind of summarizes it. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, ley lines, okay, maybe. Mounds, okay, maybe. We're in Indiana where we're Hoosiers, and nobody knows where the word Hoosier even came from.
The show goes to 9 o'clock. I was trying to drag it out there, Bob.
I'm sure we can have, we talked for 90 minutes each way last night. I'm sure we can still fill time here. I enjoy getting to chat with you. You're fun.
I appreciate that, Bob. Man, that's hilarious. But there is paranormal documentaries out there. I don't want to go too much into what they already found, but um, I was there. I did the ghost box. Didn't really get anything off of that. The Atlas was kind of interesting, and one of the claims too. And I just watched it again, and Dwight mentioned it last night about the sink in the bathroom turning on.
Yeah, I
And then
remember that.
I watched a little bit about the documentary today, and it also said he also said that it happened again, and there's a video of him walking in there, and then he announces it so the audio can pick it up, saying the water's on. In other words, the sink was on again, and apparently that's where the office was, where Dick had his office, and that's where they see his shadow moving into that bathroom. So I do have a video clip. Let's see if I can present it here. I may have to take off my headphones here, so bear with me. Okay. All right. Present screen, share screen. Oh. There we go. Yeah, yeah. Outside. Okay, you know that you shot yourself or killed yourself outside. It wasn't by rope, it was by gunshot. No. Can you hear it? You miss anything from this physical world? Oh. It just said sink. And he says that the water runs, and it's a big bar. I mean, it's a decent sized bar. It's hard to get the IR to show it. I asked if they miss anything from this, and he said sync. So let me plug my phone back in here. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
Can you
can.
hear me? All right.
Yes, sir, we
So yeah,
can.
I
Okay.
asked I asked if they miss anything from there, anything physical from there, and it said sync. And I asked Dwight, I'm like, well, is there like an ornate sink that was removed from here? I was thinking something was removed. Um, and I knew about the sink because I mentioned him. Like, well, he said something about the sink, but it makes sense that he's missing a sink that's still there. So, and the sink prior to it was just even less ornate. So it wasn't anything like a big deal, but maybe he just misses the fact that it's a running water and that he just misses running, who knows, But it, the fact that it said sink and the obelisk streak, I've never heard sink before there. And I love when the words come up, significant words come up in the locations that it should come up in. And the obelisk I use all the time because I want to learn it. I want to see what's it doing. So now using it all the time is an extension of my arm. So I know how many times it does say sync, and if it starts saying words from the night before, I can say, okay, it's saying the words from the night before, or it's acting different. I know something else is happening there. So finding sync, I thought that was a pretty good hit as far as I'm concerned. Something about the sync because it just seems out of place
That's one
outside
thing
the
I
theater.
one
That's
thing
one
I
thing.
always have enjoyed about investigating with you, Dean, is the fact that you are so thorough. You really approach it from, okay, we need to disprove this as paranormal instead of automatically accepting that it is paranormal. And that's something that is not as common as it should be for people, who are investigating. It's one thing if you're a tourist, you're going there somewhere to be scared and, you know,
Right.
have something happen. But if you're a serious person, your job should be to prove something is not paranormal. Look for the other alternatives. And then if you can't find a rational, natural reason, then you turn to the paranormal. And just not a lot of people are willing to do that extra work and take that extra time. So that's one thing I really do admire about you and the way you investigate.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. And I know that with the all the devices out there and all the online programs and all the tools and all the flashlights and K2 stuff, you have to remember what could potentially cause it. I mean, even you yourself was talking about the lights, and you knew the difference between moisture, bugs, dust, and you also know the difference between IR overfeed. And you were saying this is something different, so you were recognizing it at a place that you've never experienced this before, and now there's witnesses here saying that there are flashes of light or whatever. You could be the camera itself that they have could be capturing the flash. You could be capturing the beginning, the flash, and the end. So you never know. So at least you're reaching out to people and saying, "Hey, give me some information so I can learn from what I'm capturing or seeing." So we're doing the same thing. Do the same thing, Bob.
Yeah, I just don't get to do it as often as I used to, and I do miss it.
Oh yeah, I bet. And we don't get out that often as well, and it's nice to take an opportunity, a random Thursday, to go out to Fowler and do something like this with great people like you guys. It's always good to see
Yeah, I mean,
Kathy and. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It was so fun celebrating Marge's birthday. And I mean, after all, it was New Year's Eve.
There you go. Uh, and also, Dwight mentioned the historical building and uh, him being the paranormal team out there, 765 Paranormal. They were able to investigate the building, and he also said that they stopped them coming there because the activity started to spike. So kind of
Oh,
like
that's odd.
they wanted to calm down, but some of the things that they captured there was a lot of objects moving, and I think that's probably what might disturb the people that work there. We don't need our objects moving, especially because they're bringing in so many different things from around the world. Um, War helmets, souvenirs from Germany, stuff like that. You just never know what you're going to bring into a building. That's why people, sometimes caution me because I do storage lockers and flea markets. But, I don't know. I'm taking a chance just like everyone else is, I guess. Um, and then there was a woman seen in the window at the historical building as well. So a lot of history out there. I would definitely recommend going out there and spending a few days just to get acclimated with the territory. I mean, we went out there for the theater, but I'm not that far away, so I can easily go out there and kind of get more acclimated with the stuff that I've seen and potentially, knowing what they captured, kind of come up with a way to engineer what I have to the best of my ability so we can get some actual evidence to support some of these claims, which would be amazing. So to the pictures that I found online, I don't know if you're going to be able to see these. So we got the Fowler. So you can see to the left or right, however you want to do it, the bigger building there, that was the Fowler Hotel. And you can see how close it comes to the building. Well, that was tore down not that long ago, like 1960 something, I want to say. And then the other building on the right is also tore down. And again, the Fowler Theater itself was birthed in 1940, so it's not that old. But that's an older picture that they have of the hotel. So the Fowler would be to the right of that building. You can see some people out there. And that's kind of like the dress that people would see in the shadow figures or apparitions that they see, especially the gentleman there sitting down, smoking a cigar, enjoying a day. And let's see what else they got here. No, yeah, another picture, some banners, the theater itself. And the theater looks the same. I mean, nothing's really changed other than the insides where they changed the bathrooms and the offices and stuff. Got the article about Dick's daughter getting married there at the Fowler. It's like show and tell, Bob. Got the theater doors, the concession stand. That's where the girl was said to peek around the corner there. Let's see what else I got. Not too much. I got other pictures that I took last night. I guess I can show off the middle or the inside of the building. So, other than the light anomalies, did you get any other feelings in the place?
Well, we had several interesting things while we were in there early. Um, Myself, Marge, Michael, and Kathy were quietly asking questions, and three of us heard a woman's voice coming from behind us, and we thought it was Marge going through some of her evidence, but
Oh,
Marge didn't hear it, and she wasn't going through her evidence. She was just sitting there. And then a couple minutes later, we heard what sounded like furniture being dragged from behind us. And I know at one point Michael was using dowsing rods and, trying to see if we're getting legit answers or not. I always introduce myself when I start EVP sessions. So at one point, I asked, "Is my name Steven?" And we'd been getting yes, yes, yes answers. And all of a sudden, we got a no answer when I asked that. And, it just kind of had that interesting vibe. And we heard lots of little sounds. I had the IR anomalies, which I can't wait to get home and get them on my computer and really kind of take a look at them.
right.
Kathy's shoulder getting touched right after I invited the spirit, "Could you touch her?" That was a really neat instance. And near the end of the night, when I had my bionic ears on, a couple of times I heard some whispering. And one time I thought I heard my name. But
Oh,
when I first put them on, I had to yell at somebody who was blasting my eardrums out,
who could
talking
that
in the
been?
concession stand. Oh, I don't know who could that have been, Dean? Oh yeah,
I was talking to Dwight.
oh yeah, you were definitely talking to Dwight. Yeah, you
Kathy
could hear you.
posts. Kathy responded, "We did have several cool things happen." Kathy, you were touched, man. Because
Yeah,
Bob invited
there's yeah. Oh, I, were you up when we were talking about that up in the lobby? Were you there for that when I was talking about Moundsville and Lori?
No, I was in the
Oh,
stage area
okay,
doing the yeah.
okay. This I did. Lori and I had gone down to Moundsville, and that's a place I've told you I love to investigate. So we're up on the second tier of cells, setting up a laser grid experiment, and I'm up there with her, and I say, "Hey, convicts, look, I brought you a woman."
Oh
And
boy.
Lori just, yeah, I did. And Lori immediately just went white, and she turned to me and she said, "Somebody just broke my thighs."
Oh.
And yeah, she said you could feel the hand going up, and she was rightfully angry with me for inviting that. But I didn't expect anything to happen. And I mean, just the look on her face is just like, ever since then, I've tried to be careful about inviting people to touch other people.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Well, speaking
Lori
of,
didn't think so.
well, for the folks who don't know Lori, who is Lori?
Oh, Lori Lager, she was the one who kind of got CU Paranormal going with me. Um, I called her my paranormal wife. Her husband would say I could have her on the weekends. So, 3, 4 times a year while I lived up here, we were off on weekend adventures, Old South Pittsburgh, to Moundsville, Lit Mansion, trips down to the First Unitarian Church and Cheney Mansion. So, she's the one who really, while I was running the group, she was like my right hand. She and I investigated the same way. We have a lot of the same views. She has the, I guess, psychic medium type thing where she can feel things, and sometimes I could corroborate for her what was happening, or She could corroborate for me, and it was just a really good relationship, and it was extra good because I always called her my twin sister from another mister because we had the exact same birthday.
That's cool. Same year and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Went to high school together, and
Wow.
she was a really, really good person. And you got to meet her out at
But Belair,
Bel
yeah,
Air House, and we were out there
yep,
celebrating our 55th birthday.
awesome. So Marge is on, and she says, when Kathy was touched, she was behind the stage and didn't know that Bob invited the spirit to touch her.
Yep. I guess when doing EVP work, I've always learned keep your voice down a little bit. Don't whisper, but talk softly. And so I said, my friend Kathy is in the back. Could you touch her on the shoulder? And sure enough,
Someone did. Well, let me see. I got some pictures here, so I know when you called me to come down. I was hoping that I wouldn't run into traffic. I got pretty lucky, but this kind of alarmed me.
wait a minute.
No, that kind of alarmed me.
Yeah, nothing
Not
dangerous
Budgie.
there.
This
Nah.
this one was flopping and flipping around, and he was like cutting into things, and I'm like, yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen there.
Dean, I've got a question for you about. the weird factor cranked to 10.
Wow.
So I go, okay, no, these incidents happen. Why? So I book another tour. I go down again, and even crazier stuff happened to me. It's like, okay, I want to know why these are happening. Did I really see my mom?
Mm-hmm.
And so I got into, trying to understand these things. And, having gone through history and hauntings for the Alton tour, they were doing a private at Moundsville. So my first ever ghost hunt, I go to one 10-acre haunted prison. And, when I said earlier I didn't want to throw people into the deep end like I did with me,
Right.
that's where I go. And I had that moment where you don't, I call it the old crap moment. I'm hearing disembodied screaming. I'm feeling a presence behind me. My back was ice cold. I calmly picked up my recorder and I walked out. And I've always regretted that. Uh, I believe Kathy was with us, went to Trans Allegheny. On the fourth floor, they have a hallway of doom, they call it, because all the doors are closed. It is complete darkness. And they challenge people to see if they can walk down the corridor and back. So, the guys they had their flashlights and were going down. And I was still walking with the cane at the time. And I was the slowest person. I'm used to that. I see them getting ahead of me. Suddenly, I start hearing footsteps behind me. And my first thought is, yay, I'm not the slowest person. Somebody else is slower than me. So I hear the footsteps coming up. It's like, who's behind me? I turn around, I hear the footsteps, and nobody's there. But I hear the footsteps go by me. And now I start watching the flashlights up over ahead of me, seeing if they react. And a few seconds later, you see them, a couple of flashlights start looking around like they're hearing something. And they say, hey, Bob, is that you? It's like, no, that wasn't me. So, we had one girl, she had that type of a moment where you had your first experience, and she gave up ghost hunting. She never did it again after having that one experience. So, it's like we were talking about in the car last night. That's the moment you live for. Ghost hunting is about as exciting as watching paint dry until something happens.
Pretty much. Yeah, they're actually watching us through the windshield right now. This is the same thing that we were doing last night. So the audience is pretty much eavesdropping on us right now while we're driving home.
Hey, an audience, glad to have you along for the ride.
I just don't have the steering wheel in front of me.
Oh, you can pretend.
And I'm like, come on, get out of the way. That stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was getting a little bit of road rage last night or this morning.
Not. It's the traffic lights at the middle of the night. And why are people driving around at 1:30 in the morning?
And
on a Thursday
we were
night.
driving around at 1:30 in the morning on a Thursday night. So
so they're all ghost hunters coming back from walks.
There you go. All sorts of different places they were investigating. That's one thing I really is disappointing about. There's really not a lot here in central Illinois you can go to. There's the Fisher Theater in Danville, which is said to be haunted. But I've tried for years to get into that place, and nobody would ever reply. Decatur's got some interesting locations. Springfield has one or two that you can get into, but you got to really either head up north to Chi-Town or down towards southwestern Illinois, the Jerseyville, Alton area, to really find some good hauntings.
That they're talking about anyway.
True. Very true.
So, in your line of work, doing ghost hunting back as an earlier, so you and Lori started the group, and then you started recruiting people. Is that how you?
Yeah. Um, I'd post things occasionally on Facebook, and Lori would start asking questions about him, and my friend Jim would start asking questions. So when I first thought about it, I'm going to try to get a group together. I approached both of them with it, and they were on board immediately. So they were start talking to some of their friends. I was using Craigslist and talking to people I knew, and pretty much everybody we got together, there were about 10 or 11 of us. Myself and Lori were the only ones who had any active experience in the paranormal. Everybody else had an interest in it, but they had never done it. And after my stroke, the weekend before it happened, Dale and I had gone to the USS North Carolina.
No, nice.
And it was one of those celebrity things, and we got somebody had tickets for sale, so we got them. Got home, and that next weekend we were supposed to go out again together to Moundsville. Well, that Monday is when I had my stroke, so I'm in the hospital, and I got out of hospital and into the rehab floor on a Saturday. Well, a couple hours later, I get a phone call. It's Dale saying, "Hey, I'm outside. Let's go." And it's like, "You haven't seen Facebook, have you?" I told him I'd had a stroke.
Oh,
So
well,
about a half hour later, he comes to the hospital. We talked for a while, and he made sure I was good. The following Monday, when I went to physical therapy, I mentioned what happened to my therapist, and when I told her, Dale Kazmarek had come down, her eyes lit up. She's like, Dale Kazmarek? Like, well, yeah. So, we started talking about it. And, every time after that, well, when she had me in therapy, we would talk about the paranormal and the places I'd been, things that had happened. Well, once I got out of the hospital and was getting ready to do my first investigation, I'd invited Dale to come down to talk to the group and show them different equipment and all. And then, he would join us at the place we were investigating last night, or that night. It was the Granite City YMCA that Bill Whitehead had run the tours through. So she showed up for that meeting Saturday. She had Dale's books and she wanted to get them autographed, and she would just was just enraptured by him while he was going through his presentation.
wow.
And then when we got down there, people at this point, people have been on a few investigations and kind of had an idea, and I completely forgot that it was her very first time. So I given her one of the recorders. I said, "Hey, go up to the second floor and would you put this on the chair?" Second floor had no light. She had never been investigated before, and I just had completely forgot that. And hey, go up to the long dark hallway by yourself in a possibly haunted YMCA and put this recorder down. But no, she did it, and the whole night she was just, and everything Dale talked about, she was just sopping it up. She wanted to know all she could.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of you and Lori, you had mentioned that there's a certain charisma between the two of you, and you got something going on. Or are you able to see you guys online anywhere in video
Well, right
form?
now, there is a friend of ours had started a Facebook little series called Ghost Cowboy. And he had put the first 3 episodes up. when somebody had approached him about trying to do something more with it, and then told him he needed to stop posting those episodes for now. So he stopped, and they were talking and trying to get something put together, and things I'm really not all sure happening behind the scenes. He ended up basically getting screwed over. He just got done making a feature film called Final Summer, so he's going to start getting back to work on the Ghost Cowboy episodes. I'm hoping that they're going to start appearing on Facebook late February, early March.
And this is with you
And
and Lori, or and
yes,
somebody
with me
else?
and Lori. Oh, it's basically Lori and I. John tags along. He came along with many investigations over the years, and he's got a real interest in the paranormal.
Can you
So
see
we're going
any
to
of
try
these
to.
online right now?
The first three episodes, if you search on Facebook for Ghost Cowboy,
They're on
you'll
there.
see the first three. Yeah. Hopefully in March they'll start coming out again once a week,
Cool.
and we're talking about um, going out to Atchison for a 3-day investigation at McTier Villa, and put a little 70-minute or 80-minute um, documentary together over what happens there, and see if there's any interest in that in the documentary film festival area. So we're tentatively shooting on going out to Kansas late next spring if we can get everything put together.
Sounds like you got a busy 2023 coming up. Bushy
Ooh,
Mountain, Atchison. the
well,
name of
Brushy
the
Mountain
name of
is Brushy Mountain's only if it can get put together, and
Mhm.
then I got to see if I can afford to fly out there and
Right.
everything. Atchison, if that gets put together, that's we get up to Kansas City, and we just meet up there and then make the drive. If I had to choose between one or the other, that'd be a hard choice. But
Well, I know you're an Atchison fan based off the McIntyre Mansion. You mentioned pretty much every time you mention anything, you bring up the mansion that you want to get
well,
back out there. And
when I got more evidence in the 90 minutes we were there than I got all night at Sally House.
the coolest thing
And
about that trip, yeah, like we were talking last night, is the coolest thing is that we they all made plans to go to this alley house and that they were going to stay at a motel, and I said, or hotel, and I said, well, I'm going to get an Airbnb and everyone can stay the night there. There's enough bedrooms, and it worked out perfectly. And the person
yep,
that had the B&B owned the hardware store, which had the upper part, which was haunted. So she invited us there. And then her best friend owned the building down the street, which was haunted. And they both knew the owners of the McTier Villa, and we were able to get into there. So our let's go to Atchison, Kansas for the Sally House turned into like a multiple investigation through the time we were there. And then all of a sudden, Dale gets information that Travel Channel's in the area,
oh
and that
yeah,
and that Shippey, Steve, what's his name? Steve Shippey
Steve Shippey.
was there filming for his show, Haunted Midwest or whatever, at a different location. And they said, well, if you want to go to that location, you can. And Travel Channel says, go here. We're going to be doing some footage in Sally House. And because they were taking our time away, they bought us dinner, so we had dinner on Travel Channel. I mean, who would have guessed that that would have took place just from us going out to Sally House? All this stuff
Yeah,
came about. Isn't it crazy how this paranormal
it,
world just the paranormal family is a big united front that opens the doors for each and every one of us. And I appreciate
Yeah.
you and what you do. I appreciate Dale, and I appreciate everyone in the field for what they offer and what they can give. And just opening the door every time. I mean, that speaks volumes what happened to us in Atchison, honestly. And you're still talking about going back to this one house. I mean, the place was phenomenal. It's ginormous. It's got history, based off of even the race of the person moving into that area. Well, I'm going to build a big house here, underground railroad, just a bunch of stuff going on there. So, yeah, I'm
And you
sure you
had
can.
the doctor performing the illegal procedures in the basement. I got EVPs screaming down there. You have the rocking chair where the woman died in. They found her dead in that rocking chair, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And, and then, of course, the room with 13 mirrors and the 1899 doll with human hair,
Hmm.
which is in a locked case. That place. When you talk that much about a place when you're only there for 90 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah.
I put it up there with Moundsville. I put it up there with Old South Pittsburgh. I put it up there with Trans Allegheny. I mean,
Wow.
the amount of activity we got for 90 minutes that we got to investigate was phenomenal.
And it wasn't even planned. That was the thing. That's
Oh,
like, it's amazing how that just unfolded and worked
and
out
it
for
was the
us.
middle of the day. It wasn't even at night.
And that's the other thing too, is like that's why I think going to a town like Fowler and spending 2-3 days there to get acclimated, day, night, nighttime, anytime. I mean, you're gonna, if something's happening there, you could potentially see it because you're the investigator looking for it. So, any last words that we have here, Bob?
I just want to wish everybody watching a happy new year, and thank you for watching. Two people have a lot of fun together for an hour and a half.
There you go. Appreciate that. And yes, Happy New Year, everyone. This is the final episode of season 2. Look forward to season 3 or something similar in 2023. I got some ideas that I want to move around and see who we can get online and do exactly what we're doing here and share it with whoever wants to eavesdrop in and watch us behind the other side of the windshield, I guess. Hopefully no bugs. Hopefully no bug splatters or anything like that. You know what the
Dean, thank you so much.
you
And
know the
go ahead, Dean.
nope. Finish your thought.
Oh, I thought you were done. Just gonna say thank you again for having me,
Nope, no
and
problem.
just God bless, and have a happy New Year.
You too. Kathy says the same thing. Happy New Year, Bob and Dean.
Love you,
And
Kathy. It was so great to see you last night.
yep. And you know the last thing that a bug sees when it hits the windshield?
It's asshole.
Good night, everyone. See you next
Good
year.
night.
Oh, hey. Wow. Oh, hey, everyone. It's Dean from Paranormal Pickers. Oh, I got the preview for the next episode. Oh, yeah. Here, take a peek. Oh.
Or I've had it where you start using something, and then you pull the rods out, well, the obelisk quits talking, and it starts using the rods. I guess it's like they pick what they want to communicate with. Oh, March went back there? Where she said she was sitting in the back. Oh, that's the stage. Sit in that chair. Huh? I guess so.
Did it again. Why does it?